The year was 1885, and the vast plains of Colorado stretched endlessly under a merciless sun. Ranch life was hard, unforgiving, and often lonely. But for Sam Crawford, a weathered rancher who had lost his family to illness 3 years prior, loneliness had become his constant companion. What he witnessed on that fateful September morning would change everything, and force him to confront not just dangerous men, but the walls he had built around his heart. This is the true story of a man who risked everything to save a stranger, and discovered that sometimes the greatest courage comes not from facing death, but from choosing to live again. If you're drawn to stories of human resilience and unexpected connections, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens next. The morning mist clung to the Colorado grasslands like a shroud, and Sam Crawford squinted through it as he rode the fence line of his modest ranch. At 42, Sam's face bore the deep lines of a man who had seen too much loss. His ranch, nestled in the shadow of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, was small but well meant and a testament to his determination to keep going, despite the emptiness that had consumed his life since Martha and little Thomas had succumbed to the fever. The sound of hoofbeats broke through the morning quiet, and Sam pulled his horse to a stop, listening. Through the dissipating mist, he could make out a group of riders approaching from the east. Something about their urgency made his stomach clench with unease. As they drew closer, Sam's blood ran cold. 3 rough-looking men on horseback were dragging someone behind them, a young Apache woman, her hands bound, stumbling to keep pace with their mounts. Her traditional dress was torn and dusty, and even from a distance, Sam could see the defiance in her posture, despite her obvious exhaustion. "Please," the woman called out in accented English, her voice carrying across the plains. "I have done nothing wrong. My people, they will worry." The lead rider, a bearded man with cruel eyes, laughed harshly. "Your people are exactly why you're worth good money to us, girl. The army's paying well for Apache prisoners these days." Sam's jaw tightened. He recognized the type bounty hunters who preyed on the indigenous peoples during these troubled times. The Indian Wars had created a market for such men, and the government's policy of forced relocations had made targets of entire communities. The young woman, she couldn't be more than 20, lifted her chin defiantly. "My name is Nalani. I am not a prisoner of war. I was gathering herbs for my grandmother's medicine." "Don't matter what you were doing," the second rider sneered. "Apache is Apache. Fort Lyon will pay us the same either way." Sam's hands gripped, his reins tighter. He thought of Martha, how she had always insisted on helping anyone in need, regardless of their background. "We're all just people trying to get by in this world, Sam," she used to say. "Color of skin or language spoken don't change that." The third rider noticed Sam watching from the ridge. "Hey, you there? Mind your own business, rancher." Sam's horse shifted restlessly beneath him, sensing his tension. Every instinct told him to ride away, to avoid trouble that wasn't his to handle. He was just one man against 3 armed bounty hunters. But as he watched Nalani stumble again, her bound hands unable to break her fall, something inside him snapped. "That girl looks hurt," Sam called out, riding closer. "Maybe you should let her rest." The lead rider's hand moved to his gun. "This is our business, old man. Keep riding unless you want trouble." Sam studied the 3 men carefully. They were armed, but looked more like opportunists than experienced fighters. Their horses were tired, and their movements had the sluggish quality of men who had been riding hard for days. "Where are you taking her?" Sam asked, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. "Fort Lyon," the bearded man replied curtly. "Army's got a bounty on Apache prisoners. This one's worth $50. Nalani's eyes met Sam's across the distance, and he saw something there that reminded him of Martha's fierce strength that refused to be broken. In that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. $50, you say?" Sam said, reaching slowly for his saddlebags. "I'll give you 75 for her." The 3 men exchanged glances. "You want to buy yourself an Apache, rancher?" the leader asked suspiciously. "I need help with my ranch." Sam lied smoothly. "She looked strong enough to work." The second rider spat. "Might be worth considering, boys. 75 is more than Fort Lyon pays, and we wouldn't have to ride another 2 days. But the leader shook his head. "Nah, something ain't right about this. We stick to the plan." He jerked his horse's reins. "Come on, boys. Time's wasting." As they rode away, dragging Nalani behind them, Sam felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years, a burning need to act, to fight for something beyond his own survival. The woman's courage had awakened something in him that he thought had died with his family. He waited until they were out of sight, then turned his horse toward home. He had preparations to make. For the first time since losing Martha and Thomas, Sam Crawford had a purpose beyond simply existing. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain from the mountains. As Sam rode back to his ranch, he was already planning. 3 armed men against 1 aging rancher weren't good odds. But Sam had something they didn't: the knowledge of this land and the desperate need to prove to himself that he was still capable of being more than just a man waiting to die. That night, as storm clouds gathered overhead, Sam cleaned his rifle and packed supplies. He thought about Martha and how proud she would be to see him choosing to help someone in need. He thought about the fear and defiance he had seen in Nalani's eyes, and how she had reminded him that courage wasn't about being unafraid, was about doing what was right despite the fear. As lightning illuminated the mountains, Sam Crawford prepared for the most important 3 days of his life. The pursuit dawn broke gray and cold across the Colorado plains, and Sam Crawford was already miles from his ranch, following the clear trail left by the bounty hunters. The storm had passed in the night, leaving the ground soft and easy to read. 3 shod horses, and the footprints of someone being dragged. It was a trail that spoke of cruelty and desperation. Sam's horse, a sturdy Mustang named Buck, picked his way carefully through the muddy terrain. At 42, Sam was no longer the young man who had first claimed this land. But years of ranch work had kept him strong, and his knowledge of the territory was encyclopedic. He knew every water source, every canyon, every place where a man might make camp or take shelter. The trail led northeast, toward the Arkansas River Valley. Sam estimated the bounty hunters were moving at a steady pace, probably hoping to reach Fort Lyon within 2 days. But their cruelty was working against them, forcing Nalani to walk, while Bound was slowing them down considerably. By midday, Sam had closed the distance enough to smell the smoke from their campfire. He left Buck hidden in a grove of cottonwoods, and crawled to the edge of a low ridge. Below him, in a natural shelter formed by wind-carved rocks, the 3 men had stopped to rest. Nalan sat apart from them, her back against a boulder, her hands still bound. Even from his concealed position, Sam could see the exhaustion in her posture, but her head was held high. She was speaking to her captors, though Sam couldn't make out the words. "Told you to shut up," the bearded leader was saying as Sam crept closer. "Nobody wants to hear your heathen talk." "I was only asking for water," Nalani replied, her English clear, despite her weariness. "I have not had any since yesterday." The second man, a thin fellow with nervous eyes, looked uncomfortable. "Maybe we should give her some water. Jake, dead. Prisoners don't bring bounties." Jake, the leader, backhanded the thin man casually. "She'll get water when I say she gets water, and her name ain't whatever she said it was. It's prisoner now." Sam's hands tightened on his rifle. He counted their weapons: 3 handguns and 2 rifles. The third man, a heavy-set fellow with a permanent scowl, seemed to be the muscle of the group. Sam noted how they moved, how they positioned themselves, looking for weaknesses. "You know," Nalani said suddenly, her voice carrying clearly in the thin air, "my grandmother always said that men who hurt women are usually afraid of something. What are you afraid of?" Jake's face darkened. "I ain't afraid of nothing. Especially not some Apache squaw." "Then why do you need 3 men to handle 1 woman?" Nalani's voice was calm, almost conversational. "In my tribe, even the children could do better." The heavy-set man laughed despite himself. "She's got spirit. I'll give her that." Jake stood up abruptly, his hand moving to his gun. "Maybe it's time we taught her some respect." Sam tensed, ready to act. But Nalani's next words stopped everyone cold. "You should know," she said quietly, "that my brother is Thomas, whispering wind. He scouts for the cavalry at Fort Carson. He will be looking for me." The name hit Sam like a physical blow. Thomas Whispering Wind was legendary in these parts, a Apache scout whose skills were respected even by the white soldiers. If he was related to this woman, it changed everything. Jake's confidence seemed to waver. "You're lying." Amapnutness smile was sharp as a blade. "He taught me to track, to survive. Do you think I have not been leaving signs for him to follow?" The thin man looked around nervously. "Jake, maybe we should." "Shut up," Jake snapped. "She's bluffing. Apache women don't know tracking." Nalani's laugh was like music despite the circumstances. "You know so little about my people. We are taught to survive from the time we can walk, and Thomas taught me everything he knew." Sam watched the dynamic shift among the 3 men. The thin one was clearly having second thoughts, while the heavy-set man seemed more interested in the conversation than concerned about potential pursuit. But Jake's jaw was set, with the stubbornness of a man who refused to admit he might be wrong. "Enough talk," Jake declared. "We move out in 10 minutes. As the men broke camp, Sam retreated to his hidden position. He had learned valuable information, not just about the bounty hunter's dynamics, but about Nalani herself. If she was indeed Thomas Whispering Wind's sister, she was far more resourceful than her captors realized. The afternoon wore on, and Sam continued his careful pursuit. The trail led through increasingly rough terrain, and he began to form a plan. There was a narrow canyon ahead, a place called Devil's Throat, where the walls closed in and the path became treacherous. If he could get ahead of them, he might be able to even the odds. As evening approached, Sam made his move. He knew a shortcut through the hills that would put him ahead of the bounty hunter's route. It was risky. If he was wrong about their destination, he would lose them entirely, but his knowledge of the land was his greatest advantage. Buck was sure-footed on the rocky terrain, and they made good time through the gathering dusk. By the time the stars came out, Sam was in position at Devil's Throat, waiting. The sound of approaching horses echoed off the canyon walls, and Sam's heart began to race. This was at the moment when his 3 years of merely existing would end. One way or another, as the first rider appeared in the moonlight, Sam Crawford prepared to discover what kind of man he truly was. The confrontation, the moon hung like a silver coin above Devil's Throat Canyon, casting long shadows that danced across the rocky walls. Sam Crawford crouched behind a fallen boulder, his rifle ready, his heart hammering against his ribs. The sound of approaching horses grew louder, echoing off the narrow canyon walls like distant thunder. Jake's voice carried clearly in the night air. "We'll rest here for a few hours, then push on to Fort Lyon at first light." Sam could see them. Now 3 riders silhouetted against the starlight, with Nalani walking between them, her bound hands visible even in the dim light. The sight of her stumbling gait sent a fresh wave of anger through him. "Please," Nalani's voice was hoarse with exhaustion. "I need to rest. I cannot walk much further." "You'll walk as long as I say you'll walk," Jake replied harshly, "and you'll be grateful for the chance." The thin man Sam had mentally dubbed him nervous. Pete is mounted and looked around uneasily. "This place gives me the creeps, Jake. Maybe we should keep moving." "You afraid of ghosts, Pete?" The heavy-set man laughed. "This is good shelter. We can see anyone coming from either direction." Sam smiled grimly. That was exactly what he was counting on. He watched as they made camp, noting their positions. Jake took the dominant spot near the canyon mouth, while Pete and the heavy-set man Sam had decided to call him Bull settled, near the opposite wall. Nalani was forced to sit in the center, where all 3 could watch her. "You know," Bull said as he built a small fire, "I've been thinking about what she said earlier, about her brother being Thomas Whispering Wind." Jake spat into the fire, making it hiss his stories. "She's trying to scare us." "Maybe," Pete said nervously. "But what if she ain't? What if he really is tracking us? Then we'll deal with him if he shows up," Jake replied. "1 Apache scout against 3 armed men. I like those odds." Sam had heard enough. Moving carefully in the darkness, he made his way to a position above the camp. The canyon walls here were steep but climbable, and he had spent enough time in these hills to know every handhold. From his new vantage point, Sam could see the entire camp spread out below him. The fire cast flickering shadows on the canyon walls, and he could make out every detail of the scene. Nalani sat with her back straight, despite her exhaustion, her eyes alert and watchful. Even bound and captive, she radiated a quiet strength that reminded him powerfully of Martha. The men were getting comfortable, passing around a bottle of whiskey. Perfect. Sam waited for the alcohol to do its work, watching as their voices grew louder and their movements less coordinated. "You know what I think?" Bull said, his words beginning to slur. "I think we should cut her loose when we get to Fort Lyon. Let her go." Jake's laugh was ugly. "You getting soft, Bull? She's worth $50. $50 ain't worth getting hunted by Thomas Whispering Wind," Pete added, taking a long pull from the bottle. "I told you, she's lying." Jake's voice rose, echoing off the canyon walls. "Am I?" Nalani's voice was quiet, but carried clearly. "Tell me, Jake, that's your name, isn't it? What do you know about Apache tracking methods?" "Nothing, and I don't care to learn." Nalani's smile was visible in the firelight. "Then you should know that my brother can track a spider across a rock. He will find you, whether you release me or not. But if you let me go now, he might be inclined To Mercy, Jake stood up unsteadily, his hand moving to his gun. "I've had enough of your mouth, squaw." That was Sam's cue. He stood up on the canyon rim, his rifle trained on the camp below. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The three men spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. In their panic, they knocked over the whiskey bottle, and Pete actually drew his gun before realizing he couldn't see what he was shooting at. "Who's there?" Jake shouted. "Show yourself." "I'm the rancher you met yesterday," Sam called down. "The one who offered to buy your prisoner. You." Jake's voice was filled with rage. "What do you want?" "I want you to let the woman go." "Right now," Bull laughed nervously. "You're just one man, rancher. There's three of us." "That's true," Sam agreed. "But I'm up here with a rifle, and you're down there in the light. I can see you just fine, but you can't see me at all. That seems to even the odds some." Pete was looking around wildly. "Where is he? I can't see him." "Doesn't matter where he is," Jake snarled. "He's just one man. We can take him." Sam's voice, when he spoke again, was deadly quiet. "You're welcome to try. But the first man who moves toward his gun is going to meet his maker tonight. I guarantee it." In the silence that followed, Sam could hear his own heart beating. This was the moment, the point of no return. He thought of Martha, of how she had always believed in doing what was right, regardless of the cost. "Here's what's going to happen," Sam continued. "You're going to untie the woman and give her a horse. Then you're going to ride out of here and never come back. Do that, and we all go home alive tonight. And if we don't—" Jake's voice was defiant, but Sam could hear the uncertainty creeping in. "Then some of us won't see morning," Sam replied simply. Pete was the first to crack. "Jake, maybe we should shut up." Jake snapped. "I ain't being run off by one rancher." But Sam could see the doubt in the man's posture. The alcohol in the darkness and the echoing voice from above were working on their nerves. He just needed to push a little harder. "You know," Sam said conversationally, "I've been thinking about what she said about her brother. Thomas Whispering Wind has quite a reputation in these parts. They say he can track a man across solid rock, and he doesn't give up once he starts hunting." "She's lying about that," Jake said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe," Sam agreed. "But are you willing to bet your life on it? Because if she's telling the truth, he's probably already on your trail. And if he finds you with his sister bound and beaten, ... Sam let the implications hang in the air. In the firelight below, he could see the three men exchanging glances. The doubt was spreading like a disease. "I say we do what he says," Pete whispered urgently. "Cut her loose and get out of here." "I'm with Pete," Bull added. "This whole thing's gone bad." Jake's shoulders sagged as the reality of the situation sank in. He was outnumbered, not just by Sam's rifle, but by his own companion's fear. "All right," he said finally. "All right, damn it. But this ain't over, rancher." "Yes, it is," Sam replied firmly. "Cut her loose now." With obvious reluctance, Jake drew his knife and cut Nalani's bonds. She rubbed her wrists, her eyes scanning the canyon walls, trying to locate her mysterious rescuer. "Give her Pete's horse," Sam ordered. "Pete, you can ride double with Bull." "Now wait just a minute," Pete started. "Do it." Sam's voice cracked like a whip. "Or I start shooting." The transfer was made quickly, and within minutes, Nalani was mounted and free. She looked up toward the canyon rim, though Sam knew she couldn't see him. "Thank you," she called. "Out. Whoever you are, thank you." "Get out of here," Sam replied. "All of you, and don't come back." As the three men rode away, leading Pete's horse, Sam remained in position until their hoofbeats faded into the distance. Only then did he begin his careful descent into the canyon. Nalan. "I was waiting by the dying fire," her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You could have been killed," she said as he approached. "So could you," Sam replied, suddenly feeling awkward. Now that the immediate danger was past, she studied his weathered face in the firelight. "Why did you help me? You don't know me." Sam was quiet for a long moment, thinking of Martha, of Thomas, of the 3 years he had spent simply existing rather than living. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said finally. "And because I needed to remember what it felt like to be alive again." Nalani's smile transformed her face. "What is your name?" "Sam Crawford. I've got a ranch about 15 miles south of here. I am Nalani Whispering Wind, and you, Sam Crawford, have given me back my life." As they prepared to leave Devil's Throat Canyon, Sam felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. The rescue was over, but something told him that his real journey was just beginning. The redemption. The sun was climbing toward its zenith when Sam and Nalani finally reached the Crawford ranch. The modest spread looked different to Sam now, like a monument to loss, and more like a place where new beginnings might be possible. Nalani rode silently beside him, her dark eyes taking in everything with the careful attention of someone who had learned to be observant to survive. As they approached the small ranch house, Sam felt a flutter of nervousness. He hadn't had a visitor in 3 years, and the house bore the unmistakable signs of a man living alone, functional but stark, clean but without warmth. "This is your home," Nalani said, and it wasn't a question. "Such as it is," Sam replied, dismounting and helping her down from Pete's horse. "It's not much, but it's got a roof and 4 walls." Nalani walked slowly around the yard, her feet silent on the packed earth. She paused at Martha's flower garden, now overgrown with weeds, and Sam felt his chest tighten. "Someone loved this place once," she said softly. "I can feel it." Sam's throat was suddenly dry. "My wife Martha, she died 3 years ago. Her and our boy, Thomas, the fever, took them both." Nalani turned to face him, and Sam was surprised to see understanding rather than pity in her eyes. "Loss is a heavy burden to carry alone. You sound like you know something about it." "My parents were killed in a raid when I was 12, she said simply. "My brother Thomas raised me after that. He taught me that grief is like a river, it never stops flowing. But eventually you learn to build bridges across it." Sam found himself studying her face, noting the strength in her jaw, the intelligence in her dark eyes. "Is it true about your brother being Thomas?" whispering wind. Nalani's smile was proud. "Every word. He is the finest tracker in all of Colorado territory, and he will be very worried about me by now." "We should get word to him," Sam said. "Let him know you're safe. There is a trading post at Bent's Fort. The owner, Mr. Morrison, sometimes carries messages to Fort Carson." But she hesitated, looking around the ranch again. "I do not wish to impose, but I am very tired. Might I rest here for a day or 2 before traveling?" Sam felt his heart skip. "Of course. You can have the main bedroom. I'll sleep in the barn." "That is not necessary. I have slept on the ground for 3 days. A warm place by your fire would be luxury." As Sam showed her around the small house, he found himself seeing it through her eyes. The kitchen where Martha had sung while cooking, the sitting room where Thomas had played with his carved wooden horses, the bedroom where his family had slept. Safely, all of it seemed to come alive again with Nalani's presence. "You have good water," she observed, tasting from the well. "And the land has good grass for cattle." "It's not a big operation," Sam said. "Just enough to get by." "Getting by is more than many people manage," Nalani replied. "You should be proud of what you've built here." Over the next 2 days, Sam found himself drawn into conversations unlike any he'd had in years. Nalani was intelligent and well-educated. Her brother had ensured she learned to read and write in both English and Spanish, as well as her native Apache language. She spoke of her people's traditions, their connection to the land, their struggles to maintain their way of life in a rapidly changing world. "We are caught between 2 worlds, she explained as they sat by the fire on her second evening. "The old ways are dying, but the new ways, they do not always welcome us." "What will you do?" Sam asked. "When you leave here, I mean." Nalani was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. My grandmother is old and needs care, but she lives on the reservation. It is ... difficult there. Not enough food, too many people crowded together. But it is where my people are." Sam stared into the flames, thinking of his own isolation, his own struggles to find purpose. "Maybe there's another way." "What do you mean?" "I mean ... Sam paused, gathering his courage. "I mean, this ranch could use a woman's touch. Someone who knows about healing herbs, about coaxing life from difficult ground. Someone who understands loss but hasn't given up on living." Nalani's eyes widened. "Sam Crawford, are you asking me to stay?" "I'm asking you to think about it," Sam said carefully. "You could bring your grandmother here. There's room, and the climate's good for an old woman's bones. We could ... we could help each other." "You would do that? Take in an old Apache woman and her granddaughter?" "I'd do that for you," Sam said simply. "Because in 3 days, you've reminded me what it feels like to be alive. You've reminded me that there's more to life than just surviving." Nalani was quiet for so long that Sam began to worry he had overstepped. But when she finally spoke, her voice was warm. "My grandmother always said that the spirits sometimes send us exactly what we need, when we need it most. Perhaps they sent you to Devil's Throat that night. Perhaps they sent me to your ranch. Does that mean you'll consider it? It means I will speak with my grandmother. And with my brother. This is not a decision I can make alone. The next morning, Sam rode with Nalani to Bent's fort, to send word to Thomas, Whispering Wind. The message was simple. Nalani safe. Come to Crawford Ranch. Important news. 2 days later, Sam was mending fence when he heard the sound of approaching horses. He looked up to see a lone rider cresting the hill, a tall, lean Apache man, whose bearing spoke of confidence and competence. Thomas, Whispering Wind, dismounted and embraced his sister, speaking rapidly in Apache. Sam hung back, suddenly uncertain, until Nalani called him over. Thomas, this is Sam Crawford. He saved my life. Thomas studied Sam with dark eyes that seemed to see everything. My sister tells me you risked your life for a stranger. That speaks well of your character. I did what anyone would do, Sam replied. No, Thomas said firmly. You did what few men would do. You have earned the friendship of the Whispering Wind family. Over the next several hours, Sam listened as Nalani explained her proposal to her brother. Thomas asked pointed questions about the ranch, about Sam's intentions, about the practicality of the arrangement. You understand, Thomas said finally, that some of your neighbors may not approve of this arrangement, that there may be difficulties. Sam had been thinking about that very thing. I understand. But I also understand that what's right isn't always what's easy. Thomas nodded slowly. Nalani says you lost your family to illness, that you have been alone for 3 years. That's right. And you believe that taking in an Apache woman and her grandmother will somehow fill that emptiness. Sam met Thomas's gaze steadily. I believe that helping people who need help is what makes us human, and I believe that your sister has already begun to heal something in me that I thought was broken forever. Thomas looked at Nalani, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Then, it is settled. I will bring our grandmother here within the week. As Thomas prepared to leave, he pulled Sam aside. My sister has been through much pain in her life. She deserves happiness. If you cause her harm, I won't, Sam said simply. I give you my word. Thomas studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I believe you. And Sam Crawford, thank you for giving us back our hope. A week later, Sam watched as Thomas rode up to the ranch house with an elderly Apache woman seated behind him. Nalani ran to greet them, and Sam felt his heart swell as he watched the reunion. Grandmother Whispering Wind was small and weathered, but possessed of a quiet dignity that commanded respect. She looked around the ranch with sharp eyes, then nodded approvingly. This is good land, she said in careful English. Good water, good grass. The spirits are happy here. That evening, as they sat around the fire, Sam listened to the old woman's stories of the old days, of the time before the white men came, of the struggles and triumphs of her people. He found himself thinking not of what was lost, but of what could be built. You know, Nalani said as they prepared for bed, my grandmother says you have kind eyes. She says that is how she knew you could be trusted. Your grandmother is a wise woman. She also says that my parents would approve of this arrangement, that they would be glad to see me building a new life with someone who understands the value of family. Sam felt his throat tighten. What do you think? Nalani's smile was radiant. I think that sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. As Sam lay in his bed that night, listening to the soft sounds of the two women settling into their new home, he thought about the events of the past week. A lonely rancher, watching a young woman get dragged away by bounty hunters. 3 days of tracking and worry, and ultimately, confrontation. But what had started as a rescue had become something much more profound, a redemption. He thought of Martha and Thomas, and for the first time in 3 years, the memory didn't bring only pain. They would have approved of what he had done, of the family he was building. They would have welcomed Nalani and her grandmother with open arms outside his window. The Colorado plains stretched endlessly under a canopy of stars. But Sam Crawford no longer felt lost in that vastness. He had found his way home at last. 6 months later, the Crawford ranch had been transformed. Nalani's herb garden flourished beside Martha's restored flower beds. Grandmother, Whispering Wind, had taught Sam techniques for managing his cattle that he had never imagined, and her presence had brought a warmth to the house that had been missing. For years, Thomas visited regularly, and had even brought other Apache families to trade at the ranch. What had started as one man's desperate act of courage had grown into something much larger, a bridge between two worlds, a testament to the power of human decency in the face of prejudice and fear. Sam still missed Martha and Thomas every day, but the sharp edge of grief had softened into something more manageable. He had learned that love doesn't end with death, it transforms. It grows, it finds new ways to express itself. And on quiet evenings, when Nalani sang traditional songs while her grandmother told stories by the fire, Sam Crawford knew that he had found something precious beyond measure. A second chance at life, at love, at being the kind of man his late wife had always believed he could be. The lonely rancher, who had watched an Apache girl get dragged away, had spent 3 days tracking her captors, but in the end, he had found much more than he had set out to rescue. He had found his way back to himself. If this story of courage, redemption, and unexpected love touched your heart, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video with others who might need a reminder that it's never too late to choose hope over despair. Sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with a single act of kindness toward a stranger. This story was inspired by the real experiences of frontier families and the complex relationships between different cultures in the American West. While the characters are fictional, the themes of courage, compassion, and the possibility of redemption are timeless and universal.